more could you ask for? Spa, majestic circuit, great location, fabulous local beer. July date. It's going to be sunny, isn't it? Far from it. The heavens have just opened in the last few minutes. The cars are heading to the grid on wet Hankook tyres, and the circuit is absolutely soaking. This is going to be a very difficult first of 3 races for them this weekend. Round 19 of the FIA Formula 3 European Championship set to get underway. David Anderson trackside, and very shortly it's going to be a grid headed by the championship leader Lance Stroll once the cars have tiptoed their way round onto the circuit. And looking at the skies, I'm not sure that anyone's going to be bold enough to think about starting on slicks, hoping the track conditions improve. They qualified for this race in the wet yesterday. Lance Stroll outpacing Maximilian Gunther, his teammate Ben Barney-Coast and Nick Cassidy for the second row. Harry Newey doing a good job for fifth ahead of George Russell, David Beckman, Ralph Aaron, a winner this year, Ryan Feeter, 9th, and then Mikkel Jensen to round out the top 10. 11th fastest Alessio Morandi, who had some electrical drama. Nico Kari was 12 ahead of Antoine Hubert, Nikita Mazepin 14, Joe Eriksson on the way back, so too Guan Yu Zhao, Sergio Sete Camara, somebody who was on the podium here 12 months ago with work to do, Bukia Satahara 18, Wyron Tan 19, Callum Eilert, who had a sensor problem that brought a warning light on. He pitted. By the time the team had worked out why it was coming on, he had missed the best of the conditions, and so that time that he did was done at the worst part of qualifying yesterday in terms of the weather, which was even worse than it is now. And so as the rain falls and the umbrellas, an integral part of your equipment when you come to Spa, are being deployed, the drivers have got to cope once more with the soaking wet circuit, and they've had just about every different element thrown at them this weekend, because they've had rain, they've had light rain and heavy rain, they've had greasy conditions, they've had glorious sunshine for few too. But it's going to be a real test, this, and of course those out front will have the best of the visibility. Everybody else sitting in the spray. The FIA Formula 3 European Championship running this weekend as part of the total 24 hours of Spa programme, and so the racing on Friday for a change rather than just Saturday, Sunday the weekend. Everything has to be done by 4:30 at the start of the 24 hours tomorrow, and so down onto the grid, the cars making their way from the outer paddock. The paddock's plural seems to occupy most of Belgium because there are so many cars, so many teams here across all the different support races. And Lance Stroll, the championship leader, is the man who's going to start this race on pole position, and he has had 6 race victories so far this year with 10 podiums. He's been in the top 6 13 times out of the 19 races. He's only had 2 non-finishes. This 7th pole position of the year. Pole position or stroll position, perhaps, he's had so many of them. Got Nick Cassidy from Prema Power Team, who was a winner finally at Zandvoort. Nick was tipped to be a real star this year. Looking at Stroll going through Brussels, number 2, the similar Prema Power Team car, with Cassidy behind him. But Nick just hasn't had the season anticipated, reigning All Japan champion. It's not really gelled. He was second in all 3 races at Paul Ricard. He was second again in the first race at Po. Then he had a second and a win and a second at Zandvoort, but finally it came good. As I say, he won that middle race. So there is Nick Cassidy, the New Zealander, who's done the bulk of his racing of late in Japan, but came into the European Championship at the back end of last year with Prema and stayed with the team for this season. But like I say, it's not really developed quite the way that everybody anticipated. If you take his championship position, for example, Nick is 4th, but he has got 172 points, the 259 of Lance Stroll, so he's got work to do in that respect. Ralph Aaron, driver under 16, he was another driver to take a race victory this year. Ralph, who's stepped up from the German and the Italian Formula 4 championships while at the Hungaroring, but he's been rather inconsistent to say the least, so he started to improve a little bit more at the Norris Ring, which was 2 meetings ago. Again, he was thereabouts at Zandvoort, but frustrating for him that the pace just hasn't followed in the way that he wanted it to after the Hungaroring. George Russell, the British driver as well, making his way round to the grid. George, in his sophomore season, he was a winner first time out, the first meeting last year at Silverstone, but again was a little bit inconsistent last year. He has been victorious this season. He won the middle race at Po, which is always to a grid at the locker. He always comes up some surprise results, like the man who won the Po Grand Prix, Alessio Morandi, for example. George Russell heading down the pit lane. The pit lane is told going to remain open for 5 minutes, so drivers want to come through the pit lane before they go to the grid. They can, but they run the gauntlet of the pit lane closing if they don't get through in time. Wet race being declared, obviously, so that puts the onus on choosing the right tyres down to the teams. The officials aren't going to do it for them. Maximilian Gunther making his way up towards the grid. Another of the Prema Power Team fleet now. Max Gunther second in the championship which sounds pretty good, but he's 56 points back from Lance Stroll, so he needs not only some good results this weekend, but he also needs Lance Stroll to get himself into strife. And Lance has looked so good this year, the now Williams Formula 1 development driver, it's rather unlikely to see that happening. You never know, it's been an unpredictable circuit in the past for the 3 races at Spa. And there is Lance Stroll lining up on pole position, his 7th of the season. The Hankook wets that everyone's going to have to run on being prominently displayed. The Canadian driver who moved into Formula 3 last year out of Formula Renault, and I think it's fair to say that early on in the season was struggling to find his feet, but after the halfway point of the year he became a much smoother driver. He's got very, very good indeed this year. He's dominated the races that he's won. He's not locked into them. Maximilian Günther, moving from the Muka Motorsport team to Prema for this year. He's the man who lines up second on the grid, second in the championship. Now, Maximilian Günther himself has had 3 race wins this year, but the German driver, again, being inconsistent, and that's one of the keys to this long, long championship season, because you've got 30 races. The start of the formation lap is going to be at 12:27, so we are about 10 minutes away for the drivers leaving the line. There's Ben Barnicoat moving up from Formula Renault to Formula 3 for this year, former Formula Renault Chile reigning C champion, a category that is here this weekend as well, and Ben carrying the colours of Racing Steps Foundation. He drives for High-Tech GP. It's a rather different incarnation of High-Tech GP, but the name is a successful and historic one across British Formula 3 ranks for many, many years. Nico Kari there for the Moto Park team. Timo Ruckcar's team based near the Ossersleben circuit, the Red Bull back driver. He is on his way to the grid. I understand he had a small off on his way to the grid, and you can see now as he makes his way down towards Pont how much spray is being kicked up. The rain is falling far more heavily on the start and finish line as well, so I fear the dreaded phrase safety car starts is going to be wheeled out here. It's a new race director for this year as well, from the fact that they're getting a little bit crossed up heading to the grid, number 19, which is Lyron Tan. So wet setup having to be employed on the cars, and from the driver's point of view now, these are just horrible, horrible conditions, having to sit in the spray, sit in the rain. And Nick Cassidy thinks, I've come all this way for this. So the start of the formation lap is at 12:27. No news yet to confirm a safety car start, but safety car starts have been used in kinder conditions than this, I think it's fair to say. So we'll wait and see what the race director elects to do, and those wet tyres are going to have a very hard job. Those that can on the grid try to shelter from the conditions at the moment. There is the Van Amersfoort racing car of Harrison Newey, son of Adrian Newey, moving into Formula 3 this year from the different F4 championships, both FIA and non-FIA, that he raced in last year, the British MSV Run Series. He also drove in the German FIA Spec F4 championship last season. And Harrison Newey, another driver that's getting there bit by bit as he becomes more experienced in a Formula 3 car. Some of the fans coping as best they can with the conditions. The sunglasses are an optimistic touch. Pedro Piquet just going through shot there, up towards the grid. He crashed early on in the session yesterday and brought out a red flag in the Van Amersfoort racing car, dressed to look like his father's Parmalat Brabham from years past. Van Amersfoort seems to be the go-to team, and has been over the years. If you've got a famous father, you've got Harrison Newey there, you've got Pedro Piquet. It's the same team that Max Verstappen drove for example. And there, George Russell's car, having got to the grid, having the last adjustments made, and the teams hating every minute of this, and the drivers hating it as well, just looking to see if there's any let up in the rain. It's getting worse and worse and worse, so this is going to be, assuming that they do start on time, going to be very treacherous for them indeed. This year we've not had too many wet races, but this is going to be making up for all of that in terms of the amount of water on the road. George Russell, another of the high-tech GP drivers, and a man that came out of the BRDC F4 Championship, has also done some Formula Renault racing, and George, former winner of the McLaren Autosport BRDC Young Driver of the Year award. David Beckman is somebody that's moved from German F4 into Formula 3. He joined the series late, if you like, at Pau, but has looked impressive and got a podium on merit, not by being a rookie, last time out at Zandvoort. So David Beckman, driving for Peter Mucker's team, for whom he drove in F4 last year, has looked pretty impressive. He's one of the many drivers on this grid with the Red Bull connection as well. Not so much on the car, but on his crash helmet you'll find the Red Bull colours. So another young teenage driver that Red Bull has picked up and looking at with a view to the future. David Beckman trying to shelter from the conditions down on the grid as the bedraggled Mucker engineers work on the front of the car. Now we're going to get to a point soon, I fear, where standing water is going to become an issue. Track limits is normally a problem as well at certain parts of the circuit, and across all the categories this weekend the race directors have been very, very keen to try and stamp out track limit issues. Emanuele Pirro is here this weekend, as well as the driver steward, which has been an important and successful addition to the Formula 3 Championship. And the start will be behind the safety car. That goes under the no kidding Sherlock heading, I think, doesn't it? Because with these conditions, it was always anticipated, I think, that we would have to have the safety car start. And the race is normally 33 minutes plus a lap, although the timing screen here has started at 35 minutes, slightly quirkily. So we await confirmations to that. So might be that that's going to be corrected in a moment. But when the safety car moves away, of course, the race will start. And there you've got number 16, Ralph Aaron, who in qualifying yesterday got himself to 8th for this grid. The way that Formula 3 works is that you have 2 qualifying sessions. This is a standalone session, Q1 for race 1, and then Q2 gives you a best for race 2 and a second best for race 2, or race 3 of the weekend, out of that session. So that's how the grids line up, and this was done in the rain first thing yesterday morning. Number 3, Ryan Tweeter. If you follow the championship, you might remember Ryan was involved in the awful accident that befell Peter Lee at the Red Bull Ring in the first race. Ryan had had a spin, and as the dust cloud that he had created was settling, Peter Lee went through it and into the back of him, and that obviously affected Peter Lee's season and Ryan's weekend. But he's back and going strongly. He knows Spa because he's raced here before. He's 9th on the grid, and the American driver then looking forward, one hopes, to improvement from grid to finishing position. There you can see how the water is trickling its way down the hill. And so we've got the drivers having to now prepare themselves for what's going to be, as I say, a very, very wet race, and the start behind the safety car. Those marshals down at the far end of the circuit, down at Cours Paul Frere, trying to shelter from the worst of the weather. Mikkel Jensen, another second-year driver in the championship. He's another of the Kustal Ference Fancy Mucker Motorsport drivers. Mikkel went well towards the end of last season, but then the results have dropped off a bit for this year. So he's somebody else, I think, that's going to strive to get himself back into the mix as the second half of the championship gets underway from this weekend, where you've got the traditional 3 races. The series moves to the Nürburgring, to Imola, and then Hockenheim. So there aren't too many more venues for them, and scoring points is going to be ever more essential. Alessio Lorandi, the winner of the Pau Grand Prix, had this drama yesterday with the electrics of the car, and that rather ruined it for him. So he starts a long way back on the grid by his recent standards, and he will be 11th and 12th on the grid. Is Nico Kari, who's another driver in his first year. Alessio Lorandi, a second-year driver. Nico Kari has been up and down a bit, but can run strongly on occasions. He was 3rd at the Red Bull Ring, for example. Antoine Hubert, though, has been a winner. He's another in his first year, and he drives for the Van Amersfoort team. He won at the Norris Ring, and the Mercedes engine car then trying to gain ground once we get underway for good. Nikita Mazepin at High Tech, moving up from Formula Renault, the 16-year-old. And he drew attention to himself for rather pugilistic reasons early on in the season, but it's calmed down a little bit now. The results are starting to come. The speed is there. Behind him on the grid is Joel Eriksson, being wished well, as the Motor Park driver now is left to his own devices, because we are into the final 3 minutes. So the grid now being cleared at the 1-minute board, of course. The engines fire up, and then we're going to be in business, as there is Joel Eriksson, the younger brother of Jimmy, the GP2 racer. And he was another driver last year who was a real gun in the German F4 Championship. But Joel Eriksson's results in Formula 3 haven't really translated as hoped. He was 2nd at the Hungaroring, but got knocked out of a good potential finishing position at the Norris Ring a few weekends ago as the real low light of the year. So the grid is formed, and this is how they're going to run for the first lap once we start behind the safety car. Lance Stroll ahead of Maximilian Günther and Ben Barnicoat. Nick Cassidy goes from 4th ahead of Harry Newey and George Russell. David Beckman 7th, Ralph Aaron, Ryan Tweeter and Mikkel Jensen to round out the top 10 on the grid. Starting 11th is going to be Alessio Lorandi from Nico Kari and Antoine Hubert. Nikita Mazepin 14th, then Joel Eriksson. Guan Yu Zhao has been a podium finisher this year and could be one to watch. So too Sergio Sete-Camara, he's been in the top 3 here in the past. Okio Sasahara makes his debut. Wairon Tan is for Carlin, and Callum Ilott, definitely one to watch to try and get himself up from the back of the grid. He's been a double winner this year, and he's 3rd in the championship. Callum Ilott, the quick Brit, with Pedro Piquet's repaired VAR car at the back of the grid. So that's how they will line up, and of course that's how they will run until the green flags wave. So once the safety car moves away, the race will be on, and it is going to be the order behind the safety car. So engines fire up. The grid is now being cleared, and the lights flash on top of the safety car, ready to move away. Then down on Lance Stroll, the pole position driver. So all the umbrellas taken down. Engineers head back towards the pit lane, and then this 19th round of the FIA Formula 3 European Championship, with the 3-race format every weekend about to get underway. Everybody with a Dallara chassis. It's not a one-make category, it's just the way that Formula 3 has evolved over the last 20-plus years, that everybody wants to go the Dallara route. You've got the battle between the engine manufacturers, primarily Volkswagen and Mercedes. And so now the car's ready to be released, with Lance Stroll carrying the colours of Theodore Racing as well. There's, of course, Prema Power Team, which runs the car. Prema busy with its GP2 team in operation over this weekend at Hockenheim, ready to see Lance Stroll get away then, as the cars will be released in a moment under yellow flags, safety car boards, and with 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second to go, the safety car moves away, and round 19 of the FIA Formula 3 European Championship is go. The safety car moves away from the line, and so our 33 minutes plus 1 lap is underway. Although they've had some opportunity to run in the wet, the race director elects to start the race behind the safety car, and let us see how many laps we have before everybody is allowed to go for it proper. From here on in, the teams are just spectators unless any damage is done. Don't be surprised if there's a puncture or a damaged nose cone in the spray. But Lance Stroll is the man, you could argue, who's pretty much won this, because he's going to have the best of the visibility as long as he doesn't make a mistake. He is very much in the box seat. Lance Stroll, the Canadian, part now of the Williams Formula 1 development programme, but he's also got strong links to the Ferrari driver academy. And as the cars climb up Eau Rouge, the spray kicked up, and you can imagine what it's like for the drivers sitting in all of that spray, having to virtually guess where the road goes. So Lance Stroll, the championship leader, Maximilian Günther, and then Callum Ilott, 2nd and 3rd in the title race, with Callum Ilott starting here, 20th on the grid. He has got a huge amount of work to do. He might gain some places if others have their dramas, but in the spray like this, it's going to be really difficult for him to make much progress. Ben Barnicoat, the man that starts from 3rd on the grid, a double winner this year, one of which came in the 3rd race at the Hungaroring. Then he won the 1st race at Pau, but significantly, both of them have been in the wet. Now, is that a good omen? Intriguingly, we shall see. He starts 3rd, so he's up near the pointy end, isn't he? He hasn't got too many cars to get past, so is he going to cement this wet weather master tag? He won the Formula Renault NEC title at the Nürburgring a few years ago by not racing. The cars got to the grid, it was foggy and it was wet, and there was no let-up in the conditions at all, so the race never happened, and so he won the championship because nobody else could get the last race in to try and outscore him, which isn't necessarily how you want to win a championship, but a title is a title, and Ben Barnicoat had done a very good job that year, and has impressed as well this season. He was a little bit unfortunate at Zandvoort to, for example, have to start one race at the back of the grid after problems prevented him from getting to qualifying. So he tried his best, but Zandvoort you can't really overtake around. Here you can, especially on that run out of Eau Rouge up Radion towards Les Combes. We've seen in the past how you can tow and you can then dive through on the inside. We've always had very spectacular racing here in not just the FIA Formula 3 European Championship, but if you go back a few years to when the British Championship used to come here at the 24 Hours of Spa weekend, that always used to give good racing as well. And that key element to the lap going up towards Les Combes is where you can do the overtaking, but if you can get a gap for the rest of it and break away from the opposition so that they can't tow themselves back into contention, then you're almost home and dry. So it's a very important part of the lap. Now, the rain continues to fall, and it's still heavy rain. It might be a fraction easier, but I might be being a bit over-optimistic in saying this. So the cars work their way up towards the so-called bus stop chicane. It's not really a bus stop in terms of its shape anymore. It's just a chicane at the very end of the lap. Not like the old days where you had a left-right flick and a short straight and then a right-left out of the bus stop. It's more of a chicane. But before that, they go through the fast left at Blanchimont. And all of this running, eating in, as you can see, as the clock ticks down into the 33 minutes that we have before the regulation lap at the very end. So for Lance Stroll, he's the man leading the queue, making his way up towards the bus stop. Behind him is Maximilian Günther, both in terms of race classification and the championship situation, albeit 56 points between them. So out of the bus stop they come. Over the timing line, there'll be at least one more lap, therefore. Max Günther pulls out of the spray. Now, of course, of late, drivers have been a bit critical of race directors for leaving safety car starts out for too long, like the British Grand Prix, like Le Mans, for example. Let's see how this one is going to be treated as the cars turn their way through La Source. There's Ben Barnicoat in the Racing Steps Foundation colours. Number 12 is George Russell there, David Beckman, Ralph Aaron, Ryan Tweeter through. And then you've got Mikkel Jensen, Alessio Lorandi, Nico Kari, the rest of the pack working his way around the hairpin. Nikita Mazepin turning his way through ahead of Joel Eriksson. And Guan Yu Zhao, the Chinese driver who had a third place at Paul Ricard, a third place at the Hungaroring, he has also on occasions looked pretty handy this year. Another driver stepping up from the ADAC F4 Championship, and it shows you how good a series that must have been, because it spawned quite a bit of the grid for this year, all of whom are competitive drivers as well. So as the cars head uphill, with the rain continuing to fall, make conditions very treacherous indeed for everybody. Is there a dry line appearing? Not really. It is a little bit brighter, and the heavy rain has just become heavy drizzle, I think, now, but there's so much water on the road. That's the other problem for race directors. Was it last year we had a Formula Renault race that started under the safety car and finished under the safety car? We never got a racing lap in because the conditions just never improved. It all became rather academic, keeping the safety car out there. So it's one of the gambles. If you start behind the safety car, you've kind of got to see it through and hope the weather improves. It is getting a little bit brighter, but you've got so much water on the track that I'm not convinced they're going to be released just yet. That is at the top of Raidillon, so that water cascading towards the foot of Eau Rouge. And those grandstands that are normally pretty busy on Friday of the Spa 24 Hours weekend, deserted, everyone's gone for shelter. Out of the so-called Speaker's Corner, the left-hander with no name that heads down the hill. Why is it Speaker's Corner? Because in the old days, when the track commentary box was opposite the old pits, from there you could see the old start and finish line and that one corner. That was the only other bit of the circuit you could see. So the circuit commentators, the speakers, dubbed it Speaker's Corner because it was the one other bit of the track that they could see. So that's its unofficial name, but it's got no formal title as such. Out of the long left-hander of Pouhon they go, and then down towards the Pif-Paf through the right and the left. And you can see in the background on the exit of Pouhon all the runoff area, tarmac these days, the same here at the Pif-Paf, as befits a modern generation Formula One circuit. But years and years ago, you would have grass and gravel and even catch fencing at certain parts of the circuit, and if you got onto the grass, then you're always in for a big moment. But nowadays, and we saw it yesterday in practice sessions, if you run wide, the tarmac's there to help you, the car gets back under control and it gets back onto the circuit. That's the good bit. The bad bit of that, of course, is that it lets people push that bit harder, and so track limits becomes the issue. So you solve one problem and create another. Not just here, it happens at all contemporary F1 venues, really, doesn't it? So the cars are coming out of L'École, past the college, just hidden behind the trees on the inside of that double apex right, then up through the Cours Paul Frère, named after the great Belgian racer and journalist, and then on towards Blanchimont. Nikita Mazepin there in number 11, the high-tech GP driver, who is in 14th place, the grid being the race order still for the moment, making his way around now Blanchimont, and the safety car is going to do one more lap. The lights are still flashing. Normally we get the indication on the timing screen anyway as to when the safety car is due in. The lights go out. That's the indication to warn everybody behind that it will peel in, but it's going to do a further lap. And this is where you have some sympathy for the race director, because he wants the race to get underway but wants to make sure it's done safely. And he's hoping and hoping and hoping that there's a bit of a break in the weather to give him that moment to say, yes, OK, now it's safe. But I suspect race officials will consider it better to be asked, why didn't you start, than why did you? So there is David Beckman, who is in 7th place, turning his way out of La Source. And Beckman, again, being the best of the Mooker Motorsport drivers in the qualifying session, belying his lack of experience in a Formula 3 car. Of course, the one driver that's losing out by all these safety car laps is Callum Eilert. He's got fewer opportunities to gain ground. You only get points in the top 10. He's in 20th, so he's got a lot of people to pass, but with every safety car lap, less time in which to do it, if and when we go green. 24 minutes plus a lap being the duration that we've got still to go. Guan Yu Zhao there, making his way up the hill. So Lance Stroll, Max Günther, Ben Barnicoat, the top 3. Nick Cassidy, Harrison Newey, George Russell to 6th. David Beckman, Ralph Aaron, Ryan Tvita and Mikkel Jensen, those that are at the moment within the points. But it's the same order as the grid, as I say, with the safety car procedure as it is. You can't overtake. Everyone has to hold formation. So that's the order as it was after qualifying. We have had some pretty wet-affected races in the history of the championship. The Red Bull Ring last year, I think, being the killer, where we had a long safety car period, a red flag, one more lap behind the safety car, and a race stoppage and half points declared. That was another race that never was, really. There is Callum Eilert at the back. Last year, he was a Carlin Red Bull driver, now no longer part of the Red Bull programme, and that has perhaps taken some of the pressure off him. Also, a change of team and more experience has contributed to Callum being very, very competitive. He had a real flash of it at Macau last year, but also ended up in the wall in the build-up to the race, the Formula 3 Grand Prix at Macau. But he did show the potential, and this year it's translated well with, as I say, these 2 race wins. Now, conditions there at the pith path looking better. Maximilian Günther running to the very outside, looking for a bit more grip. Often it is to be found on the outside, but then you've also got standing water going right across the road in the middle of the pith path here. So the drivers working their way, try and generate the temperature into the tyres. Then they will work better to try and cut through the water once the race gets underway. Still, those safety car boards, though, are out. And Lance Stroll, 6 times a winner this year, the championship leader, is the man at the head of the queue. But again, the lights remain on, and as the cars work their way towards the bus stop, Lance Stroll sits in the spray generated by the safety car. And although they're going at a reasonable pace, not as quickly as the cars, the Formula 3 cars, would go under green flag conditions. So you see the spray now. Imagine what it's going to be like when we go green. So down towards the chicane, the bus stop, comes the safety car, and the queue behind it. Max Günther is the man in 2nd in the queue. Itching to get on with this, of course, and try and find his way, if he can, onto terms with Lance Stroll once the race gets underway. And Barnicoat also turning his way there down towards the bus stop. The man from Sheffield. Last year he was 4th in the Formula Renault Euro Cup. Won the Autumn Trophy, the Winter Series, effectively, for the BRDC F4 cars in the MSV Run Championship. Number 2 in the background there, Nick Cassidy, the New Zealander, last year's Japanese champion, and a man that's had a 3rd place 2 years ago now, it was, in the Macau Grand Prix for Formula 3 cars. He's won the Toyota Racing Series in his homeland, which is a very popular winter championship, runs through January and February, and he's gone very well in that, to win that in 2013 and 2012. He's been runner-up in it in 2011. He's a New Zealand Formula Ford champion as well. So Nick Cassidy with a very good track record, even though, as I say, it may not have translated properly this year. Harrison Newey in the queue as well, making his way up the hill, moving from F4, and also the Indian Formula 2000, the MRF series, the Madras Rubber Factory sponsored championship. He drove in that in the winter months, and having come out of karting, Harrison Newey splitting his time last year between racing in the UK and the German F4 Championship, and now moving to Formula 3 for this season. There's George Russell, a winner last year and a winner this as well, but maybe you might have anticipated a few more victories out of George by now. The man from Kings Lynn, 6th in the championship last season, had a good karting pedigree, and then came in his first year of cars to a very busy season of Formula 4 in the UK, of Formula Renault Alps, Formula Renault Euro Cup, and then last year into Formula 3. Ryan Tveter there makes his way down the hill. Ryan once more driving for Trevor Carlin's team. He was 23rd in the championship last year, but he's gone well in single-seaters in the past. Drove in the Star Mazda Championship back home, for example, and has spent quite a bit of time racing in Europe of late in Formula Renault before moving to Formula 3 for last year. So we've had, effectively now, 13 minutes plus. We've got 19 and a half still to go as the cars head down the hill behind the safety car. Ralph Aaron, winner at the Hungaroring, the Estonian. Winner of the Italian F4 Championship last year, race winner in his half season in the German Championship, drove in the 1.6 litre Formula Renault category the year before that, and of course, like almost everybody on the grid, came out of karting to begin with. Ralph Aaron wanting to be the second significant Estonian to win a Formula 3 Championship, Marco Asma having won the British title going back a few years, defeating Maro Engel, one of the key drivers in qualifying yesterday for the total 24 hours of Spa. So the bedraggled fans trying to get a better vantage point if they can. Now, it's definitely getting better, the weather conditions. I think it has just about stopped raining over on the start and finish area. And as the sky starts to brighten, we might, pretty soon, he says, with everything crossed, be getting towards a proper green flag start to this race shortly. But not this time, because the lights are still on the safety car as the field works its way down towards us. Having mentioned Ralph Aaron in 8th place, and Marco Asma, the man that won the British Championship in, what, 2008? 2007? 2007. Marco Asma now mentoring Ralph Aaron, so with an eye on the next hopeful from Estonia. Not perhaps the most obvious motor racing nation, but it's delivered some pretty decent drivers of late. Right, we've done 4 laps. We're still behind the safety car. We've got 18 minutes of the race plus a lap to go. But as I say, it is getting a bit brighter, but the message line on the timing screen doesn't yet offer positive news about the safety car being brought in and the race getting underway. There's Ryan Tveter working his way around La Source. The spray is there, and it's going to be there because of all the standing water, but definitely the skies are a bit brighter. Cars making their way past the old pits, that iconic section of the circuit, that really steep drop down towards Eau Rouge. And yes, okay, it's been tweaked over the years, and yes, there's the run-off tarmac on the outside, but it's still a great part of the circuit. It's a part that the drivers really enjoy. And then the cars climb uphill once again. And this is the run where, in the dry, and hopefully we'll see that if not in this race, but in races 2 and 3 of the weekend, you can do the slipstreaming, you can do the overtaking. It was also the scene of some pretty dramatic incidents last year, but it is, as I say, a key part of making progress this section of the circuit if you get a tow. Mikkel Jensen working his way through Les Cons, and the safety car is going to be in at the end of this lap. So we'll have had 5 laps behind the safety car, and then we're going to go racing this time around. Mikkel Jensen, just to mention, was 9th in the championship last year, but has struggled a bit this season. Results just not coming his way. Looker as a team has been inconsistent of late as well. Felix Rosenqvist 2 years ago drove for them and struggled. Moved to Prema last year, mopped up the championship. So it does seem as though Looker may have lost its way a little bit and isn't quite the force that once it was. So we've got about half a lap of this final safety car lap to go. Then everybody can be released, and then finally we can have conditions suitable for racing. And we'll see how the order is going to be affected once we go racing proper. The Red Bull cars of Sergio Sette Camara and Nico Kari, the 2 motor park drivers, turning their way out of Pouhon. Nico Kari in his first year, Sergio Sette Camara, year 3 now in the championship, so he really does need to start delivering results, I would have thought, because he's somebody that has been on the fringes of the championship and has been knocking on the door of success for quite some time now. But Sergio Sette Camara has good days and bad days, but Red Bull not noted for its mercy. So, as I say, he sort of needs to start delivering, really. So, having driven in the championship in 2014, but briefly, drove in the series last year for a full season, and then moving across to Motor Park for this year. Safety car lights are now out. So the cars turning their way down towards the chicane. And Lance Stroll stacks them all up, wanting to try and sprint away on the start proper. But, of course, this is the end of lap number 5, so we will get the cars up towards the timing line, then the green flags will fly, the race gets underway, Lance Stroll in charge, and let's see whether everyone is going to be pretty well disciplined going through La Source, because that's going to be the first opportunity to try and gain some ground. Stroll brings the field round towards the bus stop then at the end of lap 5, and this time around it's going to be a proper race run down towards La Source then. So Stroll it is in this Prema 1-2 ahead of Maximilian Günther. We will have, as they get over the timing line now, 14 minutes and 20 seconds just about of racing to go. Through they go. And Lance Stroll builds a gap of over a second then as they work their way down towards La Source. Ben Barnicoat could well be the man to watch here, but he's under attack. Nick Cassidy through on the inside there. Diving late on the brakes, going down towards La Source. Nick Cassidy tried to scrabble through on the inside. Has he done it? Let's see as the cars plunge downhill. Ben Barnicoat had left the door open. He has lost the place, but he's fighting back. Nick Cassidy is ahead. They're almost wheel to wheel in the spray. Nick Cassidy gets his nose in front. Ben Barnicoat's got the inside line for the next part of Eau Rouge, and through he goes, back up into third position. Ben Barnicoat down and then up, so he retakes the place. Lance Stroll leading, Maximilian Günther is second. In third place it's Barnicoat, fourth is Cassidy. Now can Nick tow himself back into contention on the run up towards Le Con? The trouble here about overtaking is to go offline to do it, you're into a more slippery part of the circuit. Stroll leading, Günther is second, and coming under attack, look, Barnicoat's almost with him. In fourth place is Cassidy, fifth is Harrison Newey. And there, Mikkel Jensen tries to get up the inside of Ralph Arendt, going up towards the sequence of corners at Le Con for effectively the first racing time. Lap 6 of the race, though, we are on with 13 minutes and a lap still to run. Down towards Bruxelles they go. Race order on screen. Callum Ilott trying to make progress from 20th after his disappointments in qualifying. And there a challenge being made by Nico Kari up on the inside line, trying to squeeze his way through as it worked for him. Wheel to wheel as they drop down the hill. Kari versus Lorandi there. Alessio Lorandi in the blue and yellow Carlin car just up the road, so there's certainly a lot of commitment being put in by some, knowing that they've got to go through and get into the points. Already we've got 2 of them under investigation though. Mikkel Jensen is one and the other is Wyron Tam, so numbers 7 and 19 under investigation. That must be for the start procedure, and so it may well be that there's more to the story than just their current positions. 9th for Jensen, 17th for Tam. If there are penalties, we'll tell you, but the cars working their way then for the 6th time through the pith path. Gaps opening up as some drivers have to back off because they just can't see enough in the spray. And Lance Stroll building up the advantage. The rain's falling again, I think, down at the far end of the circuit, but as they work their way up towards the end of the lap, it is falling again on the start-finish straight. Yes, so conditions are just starting to worsen once more. There's Ben Barnicoat, the Rainmaster this year, double winner in the wet. Not quite near enough to challenge Maximilian Günther as they come down towards the end of the lap, but let's see whether he can perhaps make a move down towards La Source. Stroll in the meantime though building the advantage, turning his way right and then left, up out of the bus stop, over the timing line. There is Günther, behind him is Barnicoat, fourth in the queue is Nick Cassidy, having briefly gained and then lost the place. Over the timing line they come, and Lance Stroll's advantage at the end of one proper racing lap is 3.7 seconds as they go over the timing line. And there, an effort being made by Antoine Hubert that comes to naught because he gets muscled out wide, coming over the timing line. He gets back onto the circuit as well, but Hubert battling with Wyron Tam goes through just ahead of him by 69 thousandths of a second. Antoine Hubert, the Norris Ring winner, has the inside line for La Source. He should be able to claim the place here. You've got Guanyon Zhao behind as well in the red Motor Park car, but Antoine Hubert out of the points, but striving to hang on to that place. 11 minutes to go as they head downhill, peer through the spray. Hubert stays ahead. So Stroll leads 3.7 seconds to the good he is at the moment, having got the best visibility. But the flip side of that coin is that he's the pioneer on every lap. He's the first one to come across each corner and have to assess the grip levels, as up towards Le Con there, George Russell, number 12 for High Tech, looks to try and get past Harrison Newey. It doesn't work. So Harry Newey in 5th place, hanging onto the position, but only just. George Russell tries to go right round the outside, and he's done it. Great move. Heading down towards Bruxelles. George Russell right round the outside. There's a bit more grip to be found on the outside line, and it's paid off for George. The British driver goes through ahead of Harrison Newey then. High Tech goes ahead of Van Amersfoort. The Brits swap over, and look, George Russell now, having gone through, instantly starts to gap Harrison Newey. Downhill they go towards Pouhon. Gap building between them as the race leader, Lance Stroll, is the man in charge. But interestingly, the best of anybody in the first sector now has been done by Ben Barnicot. Now, OK, you get a toe there, but equally, we know how good he can be in the wet. So Ben Barnicot is a man on a mission trying to get onto terms with Maximilian Günther, but he's 4.7 seconds back from the race leader. So even if he gets past Günther, I can't see Ben catching up to Lance Stroll in this race. However good his prowess in the wet weather is. There is Lance Stroll, absolutely dominating this. Max Günther runs second, so it's a Prema 1-2, High-Tech third and Prema fourth. And now we're starting to get people under investigation. It is Antoine Hubert for exceeding the track limits. Well, if that was coming out of the bus stop, I would have said there were mitigating circumstances, weren't there? Like he didn't really have anywhere to go because he was being elbowed out rather wide by Wyron Tan. Anyway, it's going to be looked at by the officials. Race order as they come towards the end of lap number 7. Stroll is the race leader. Günther is second, and that man, Ben Barnicot, runs third as they turn their way through the right, through the left, up towards the timing line. At the end of lap 6, the gap was 3.7 seconds. First to second, I'm suggesting it's going to be more this time. It is. It's gone up by a full second as Stroll, not surprisingly, does the fastest lap of the race. So 4.7 now between the top two. Challenge there as Hubert again tries to find a way past Wyron Tan, and Guan Yu Zhao arrives and makes contact and spins and goes off the road, and fortuitously for him has just got enough traction to get back on, and now the Mucken teammates drive into each other. Beckman and Jensen come to blows at La Source. Bit of wing end plate lies on the ground, so that was for 7th and 8th places. Not what a team wants to see, and the one that's come off worse, I think, is Jensen heading down the hill. He's the one with the damage by the look of it, and that, with a punctured tyre, is Hubert, who was attacked by Guan Yu Zhao, wasn't he, at the bus stop? So Hubert has a flat right rear, and effectively his race is run. Now, while all this is going on, Callum Islet's got the chance to gain a few more spots. He's only up to 19th, though, I'm afraid, so still out of the points, and they're getting all sideways, and off the road goes David Beckman. Now, he was hit, wasn't he, by his teammate? So has he picked up some damage as a consequence? Yes, there he is, across the escape road, back on. And David Beckman, who was 7th at the start of the lap, struggling now, a legacy of the damage perhaps. That little bit of Dallara is retrieved, and that was Guan Yu Zhao getting up the inside of Antoine Hubert. They touch, punctured tyre for Hubert. Zhao spins, gets onto the wet grass, but actually found enough traction to get himself off there. Here it is from another angle. So Hubert tries to find a way past Wyron Tan, and Zhao was a bit keen, I think, trying that. Yes, there was a gap, but he wasn't really able to fully take that. And the incident between Tan and Hubert is going to be looked at after the race. Now, this was Jensen up the inside of David Beckman, and that wasn't really on either, especially when it's your teammate. I know they're racing for themselves. It's a category where there are certainly no team orders, but you don't want them driving into each other. Hubert is out. He's got the punctured tyre, so he retires from the race. Ben Barnicot, once again, doing the best of anybody in Sector 1, but actually, it's not helping him that much because he was 1.8 seconds behind Günther at the start of the lap anyway, so he's not really bringing the gap down significantly. 7 more minutes remain in the race. There goes number 2, Nick Cassidy, the New Zealander, up towards the end of the lap, the end of lap number 8. Now, is Cassidy going to be able to make a move before the end to gain a place of Ben Barnicot? Wyron Tan, incidentally, is being given a drive-through penalty for overtaking under the safety car. So he, I think, started to race before he should. End of the safety car period. You don't race until you get to the timing line. And so a drive-through penalty for 19, Wyron Tan. Overtaking under the safety car. He's 14th at the moment. Then dropping down the order. Give another place to Callum Islet. There is Islet, number 6, up alongside Sergio Sette Camara as they come out of the bus stop. Camara in the Red Bull colours just stays ahead of former Red Bull driver Callum Islet. But through they go for 16th and 17th places. Frustration for both of them, but quite a long way down the order. To the braking area they go for La Source. There's an incident that's involved Ryan Tvita, but no further action is going to be taken against him, we understand from the officials. So 21 started. We've lost Hubert. We are effectively losing Jensen. He's going to have to sort the damage out as, with the rain falling again, Lance Stroll is leading now by 5.8 seconds, and the spray hanging in the air now. Up the escape road goes Ralph Aaron. That's at Lecombe, and wait for him to flash back onto the circuit. There he goes. Make sure that it's clear. Darts out of the side road, as it were, and gets back onto the circuit. George Russell this time, the best of anybody in Sector 1. There is Ralph Aaron, 8th at the start of the lap. Race leaders making their way downhill. Now Barnicoat to Cassidy, 8/10 of a second, 5 minutes plus a lap of the race to go. Can that come down? Through Pawn goes a hard-charging George Russell. And George, again, using that very outer line, finding a bit more grip and doing his best to close. And his last lap was quicker than Nick Cassidy ahead, but he's 3.4 seconds back. So it might be too tall an order for George Russell, this, to get on terms with the Prema car of Cassidy, but he's having a real go, that's for sure. The incident between Guan Yu Zhao and Ralph Aaron under investigation, but I don't think Ralph Aaron was involved in that. That's what's come up on the timing screen. I think it was Zhao and Hubert, wasn't it, that was the clash. But anyway, it's been cited as being Zhao and Ralph Aaron. He was having his own strife further up the road. He was nowhere near Zhao. The race leader is on lap number 9, and Lance Stroll is heading for a magnificent 7th win of the year. In second place there is Maximilian Günther. Again, it's good points for him, but he's outscored again by Lance Stroll, the man he's trying to catch in the championship. Over the timing line goes Stroll, then the gap going up and up. That's another fastest lap of the race. And this year's Lance Stroll, smooth, unflustered, error-free, and just looks absolutely majestic in the way that he goes about winning races in the championship this year. He leads by 7.3 seconds now from Max Günther. Ben Barnicoat there in 3rd for High Tech, ahead of Cassidy. Then it's Russell. Harrison Newey in 6th place, going strongly. Harry Newey has had some good days and some bad days, but he's on target here for his best finish yet if he stays in 6th place. Hitherto it's been an 8th, but this potentially the best finish of the season for Harrison Newey, and in perhaps the worst conditions. You could argue he's had fewer racing laps to have to defend the place, but even so he's had to keep it on the island, and so far so good. Number 2, Nick Cassidy, working his way out of Les Cons, 9/10 back from Ben Barnicoat, but with a little bit of help from a slipstream, closing that gap on the run up towards Les Cons. Günther down now towards Bruxelles, and Cassidy pulls out and pulls back in again. Has a look at where he's going, finds his braking reference, gets back for the right line into the corner, twitches his way as the power comes in, out of Bruxelles, down the hill, through the left-hander with no name, on towards Pouin. So can Cassidy do anything about Barnicoat? It's not for the one of trying, is it? Wyron Tan, incidentally, has just served his drive-through penalty, so he drops down the order, as there is Cassidy, flicks the car into the downhill, long left of Pouin. Spray thrown up into his face all the time. Is he going to get close enough before the very end? Again, he pulls out and has a look to see where the pith path is. Through the right, through the left. Ben Barnicoat looking good for the podium. And off has gone Wyron Tan, so he's just served the drive-through penalty and has gone off up at Les Cons by the look of it, and that with rear damage is going no further. And is it beached in the middle of the road? Let's just have a look. He comes out of the second element. The safety car is being deployed, I'm afraid to say, because having bounced off the barrier, Wyron Tan's car is by the side of the road. Now he's got the car moving, but the safety car's been called for. So, well, actually, even parking it there is probably not an ideal situation. We are going to have the safety car deployed. They will all bunch up, but with a minute and a half plus a lap to go, it could be that we start and finish behind the safety car here. Let's see. Over the timing line goes Lance Stroll. So safety car conditions apply. There is the safety car. Vite trying to pick up the race leader, and Lance Stroll lifts, lets the safety car slot in ahead of him. So Wyron Tan on his outlap effectively from the drive-through goes off the road. We're going to finish behind the safety car, aren't we? Because we've got a minute and then there's the lap. So there is this lap and one more to the checkered flag. So depending on how quickly Tan's car is removed, it might be that they get the final lap, the regulation lap, if you like, as a race lap. Or it could be that we have to go to the end under the safety car. So the race order on screen as the cars head over the timing line, and everybody now bunched up. So Lance Stroll's 8.8 second lead, as it was, is now about 8 metres, because they're all breathing down his neck. But it will be the end of the timed element of the race on this lap, and so the regulation lap to come. And above us there is blue sky. There's a break in the cloud, so it could be that just as the cars finish, the sun will break through. everybody else will have perfect conditions. But F3 have really copped for the worst of the weather this weekend, haven't they? Both in terms of qualifying yesterday morning and racing today. So 33 minutes is what's counting down on the graphic at the top of the screen, and then there is the regulation lap, which actually might be doable now, looking at the recovery process for Tan's car. The officials in consultation with race control, keen to tell the race director that will be clear shortly. And of course there's still half a lap under the safety car to go, so I think we might actually be okay here. They can get Tan's car out of harm's way. We should be good for one lap. So the field heading downhill, down towards Speaker's Corner. Spa is a wonderful circuit, but when the weather is nasty, it feels decidedly eerie. And it certainly did when we had the worst of the weather a little while ago. The spray still hanging in the air. There, Nico Kari, 11th. That's the big frustration, isn't it? First loser, effectively, out of the points. So he ideally wants one more racing lap to try and make a move against Alessio Lorandi, who is the man just up the road ahead of him, as the cars now work their way through the pith path. So ideally we want the message line on the screen to say safety car in this lap, and then the final lap of the race, the regulation lap, will be a proper racing one. However, for the moment, not sure. Out of the pith path they go down towards L'École, out of which they turn their way through the Cours Paul Frère. And that, I'm afraid, is not a great sight. The flatbed still chugging its way up towards L'École in order to put Tan's car on the back of it. It's not going to get done in time. So, I'm afraid to say that we are going to end up behind the safety car to the checkered flag, aren't we? The safety car may peel in and they'll get the ceremonial run to the line, but I'm a bit puzzled as to why they couldn't just tow Tan's car off the road, why it needed the flatbed, unless there was some suspension damage. However, wasn't clear to see on that last look that we had. So, the race started with a lengthy safety car period. It will end with a safety car period as well, effectively, because this now is the last lap of the race. We've had the 33 minutes. There's the one lap tagged on at the end, and this is it. And Lance Stroll should take maximum points, but I think some will go to the safety car driver because he's done a fair amount of distance in this race. So there is Tan's car. And the crane attached to the hook, attached to the roll bar. It'll be lifted up, put on the back of the lorry, but it's all rather academic because we're on the last lap and we're behind the safety car. So Lance Stroll it is who wins round 19 of the FIA Formula 3 European Championship. And whilst it has been a race massively affected by the safety car, fair play to Lance Stroll because he didn't put a wheel wrong, did he? He controlled everything when he needed to and has looked masterful in that race. Very, very impressive indeed. Up towards L'École they come. So what about those that tried to make progress? Well, Callum Eilert in the end, only 16th. Big frustration for him, not being able to make proper progress up the order. And the gaps that we're going to have on the result when it's confirmed at the end of the race won't really tell the full story either. It'll be a lot closer up at the front than ideally it would have been. Lance Stroll was, what, 8.8 seconds ahead. The way that he was going, I suggest he could have been 10, maybe 12 seconds to the good come the end of the race. While on Tan's, Carlin engineers have work to do then in order to repair that car for race 2 of the weekend. Formula 3 races again at around about 4:10 this afternoon, and then the third race at 1 o'clock tomorrow. So it's a busy weekend as ever for the F3 teams. And as the cars work their way downhill, Lance Stroll and Maximilian Günther making yet another Prema Power Team 1-2 in the FIA Formula 3 European Championship. Lance Stroll's 7th win. Max Günther yet another second place, but importantly another podium. And then Ben Barnicoat getting himself onto the podium as well. There is also the rookie competition, and that for those in their first year is Ben Barnicoat ahead of Harrison Newey, ahead of David Beckman. So the rookie podium will be those three drivers, and Ben Barnicoat therefore gets on the podium twice, third overall, and the winning rookie. So the 19th round of the FIA Formula 3 European Championship comes to, if you like, a muted end, with Lance Stroll leading the pack around up towards the timing line, and for the checkered flag in a moment or two. As I say, it may well be that the safety car peels into the pit lane. There's that sort of ceremonial run to the line so that the finish photographs don't have the safety car in front. It'll just be the cars, but having to hold formation up towards the line. Let's see. I think the safety car's going to bring them over the line, isn't it? There's no indication yet that it will peel in. So through the bus stop, safety car does peel in, and we do get the cars released in quotes up towards the line for Lance Stroll to take victory in the 19th round of the FIA Formula 3 European Championship from Maximilian Günther in second place. Ben Barnicoat takes third, Nick Cassidy for fourth, fifth George Russell, sixth Harrison Newey, David Beckman taking seventh, eighth Ralph Aaron, Ryan Tvita is ninth, Alessio Lorandi rounds out the scorers ahead of Nico Kari, 11th, Nikita Mazepin, 12th, 13th Okio Sasahara, 14th Joel Eriksson, 15th Sergio Sette Camara, 16th Callum Islet, 17th Guan Yu Zhao after his spin, 18th Pedro Piquet. The ones that we lost, Wyron Tan with damage, Mikkel Jensen with damage, Antoine Hubert with damage from earlier on. So, in many ways, as I say, a frustrating race, but Lance Stroll perhaps will care not. He takes the points. It ran the full distance, so it's full points as well, even though there weren't that many racing laps. It did go to the full 33 minutes plus the lap time slot that was required. The cars make their way down the pit lane. The drivers will be whisked towards the podium. Let's just confirm the way they came across the line then, with Lance Stroll taking the win, Maximilian Günther second, Ben Barnicoat third, and the winning rookie Nick Cassidy fourth ahead of George Russell, Harry Newey in sixth from David Beckman and Ralph Aaron, ninth Ryan Tvita, 10th Alessio Lorandi, and then those outside the points, Nico Kari, Nikita Mazepin, Okio Sasahara with the Okio Katayama tribute crash helmet. Behind Sasahara was Joel Eriksson, Sergio Sette Camara, Callum Islet, Guan Yu Zhao and Pedro Piquet. And so the winning drivers in the Parc Fermé area. Standing already, Maximilian Günther. There is Lance Stroll putting the steering wheel back on. The Canadian congratulates his teammates. Ben Barnicoat says well done as well. And in the background there should be Harrison Newey and David Beckman to arrive in a moment as well. So there is Maximilian Günther making his way to say congratulations to the Prema engineers. And Lance Stroll takes off the crash helmet, all smiles. There's David Beckman arriving, third in the rookie contest. And win number 7 for Lance Stroll, who's escorted by the FIA officials up towards the podium. 12 months ago, Lance was involved in one of the spectacular incidents that we had here at Spa. 12 months on, crushes the opposition. There's Ben Barnicoat, the quick Brit, being given his instructions by Britta McKenna, the media delegate for the championship. David Beckman out of the car, so the drivers go to the scales. But then towards the podium, the FIA technical officials making sure that all is well. And Barnicoat goes to get weighed. Gets the slip of paper. And Harrison Newey, his best finish yet, 6th overall, 2nd in the rookie contest. He was pretty chuffed with that, I think. He's had some incidents, it's fair to say, this year, but that was a good measured drive. Kept out of trouble, and best finish of the season. He will make his way to the rookie podium. Ben Barnicoat, 3rd in the race, is the winning rookie. Van Amersfoort engineers wander over as well. There's Maximilian Günther. Having a stronger year, I think. He's moved to Prema, in fairness, after a frustrating time with the Mucka squad last year. He actually left the team towards the end of the season. Even though he'd taken one win, that was at the Norris Ring last year, he was certainly frustrated with the lack of pace that Mucka had, and has enjoyed better results this year at the Prema Power Team squad. Go for the podium. then Harrison Newey 6th, with Beckman, Aaron, Tavita and Lorandi rounding out those that score points. Carlin drivers not having the greatest of days, down at the foot of the top 10. Nico Kari for Motor Park, ahead of High-Tech GP's Nikita Mazepin. The 3-bond with T-Sport entry. Russell Eacott's team back in the championship with Lukia Sasahara. And frustration among others, Antoine Hubert, Mikkel Jensen, Wyron Tan, with damaged cars not getting to the end. So the drivers, as I say, make their way to the podium. The circuit's going to get busy with cars making their way up towards the podium in a moment, and drivers for subsequent races making their way out on track. Let's look back at some of the highlights of that race, with the safety car start being necessary because the amount of standing water on the track such that the cars had to make their way behind the safety car for the first 6 or 7 laps or so. When we did go racing, inevitably things started to get rather energetic, and Antoine Hubert ran off the road in his fight with Wyron Tan. Tan was in the wars towards the end of the race. Ben Barnicoat was a man on a mission as well, trying to get his way up the order. Lance Stroll, the dominant race leader all the way. David Beckman had that little moment after contact from Mikkel Jensen going up towards Les Cons. He fought back, but Guan Yu Zhao was in strife himself. Ralph Aaron was also in the wars because he had that moment at Les Cons. And Wyron Tan, after serving a drive-through penalty, then dropped it completely, bounced off the barrier, and with the car needing retrieval, that brought out the safety car. And although Tan was okay, it meant that the race finished under safety car conditions just effectively as it had started. So Lance Stroll taking win number 7 in the FIA Formula 3 European Championship year, and he will be the man very shortly to make his way up to the top step of the podium. So many of the drivers in Formula 3 this year have come from Formula Renault. It's those cars you just caught a glimpse of making their way round onto the grid because we have Formula Renault NEC race to come. There's Ben Barnicoat getting ready for the podium. And as I say, he will be the top rookie as well as 3rd overall in that race. So the British driver, former Formula Renault NEC champion, David Beckman arriving. Harrison Newey arrives as well. Harry Tinknell does a lot of driver coaching for a number of the drivers these days, and is a regular at these events, and he's quite regularly pressed into operation to present trophies as well. The sport prototype star, but of course a former driver within the Formula 3 ranks in Britain and in Europe. So I think all the drivers are ready, and the Belgian speaker, Thomas Bastin, is ready to introduce the drivers to the bedraggled fans once he gets the go-ahead that everybody is present and correct, ready for the 2 podiums, the overall and the rookie podium as well. So the drivers are there, representatives of the winning team as well, Prema Power Team, the victorious squad. And all smiles, Lance Stroll, 0-1 on the overalls, and 0-1 the position on the grid, position in the race, and the man to beat, no question about it, dominated the 19th round of the FIA Formula 3 European Championship. So Lance Stroll will make his way up to the podium very shortly. And there Harrison Newey has a quick word with Harry Tinknell as the drivers await the all clear, and that is about to be given because you can hear the podium ceremony starting in the background, and the first of the 3 FIA Formula 3 European Championship races is won for the 7th time this year by Lance Stroll, who nonchalantly saunters out to the top step of the podium. He will be joined by Maximilian Günther, and then for 3rd place, the British driver Ben Barnicoat. So we have Prema and High-Tech as the top teams. The Racing Steps Foundation driver for the 3rd step. Prema Power Team will be as the represented winning team, to a noisy reception from all of the engineers in the pit lane. We now have for Lance Stroll the Canadian national anthem.
Congratulations, Lance Stroll, Maximilian Günther, Ben Barnicoat.
So Lance Stroll then celebrates the 7th win of the season, and the drivers with the regulation Hankook caps back on. And Harry Tincknell it is who does indeed present the winner's trophy. Lance Stroll is racking up quite a collection of those this year. The statistics have been mighty impressive for him. If you take his Formula 3 career to date, that was his 51st race. It's the 8th win of the career and a 17th podium. This year, 7 wins, 11 podiums now, 14 times in the top 6. That was an 8th pole and a 10th front row start as well. So it has been mighty, 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 mighty. Lance Stroll is the winning driver. Maximilian Günther and now Ben Barnicoat there on the podium with him, receiving the trophies. And now everyone huddles together for the photographs. So winning drivers, winning team, and presenters as well. Harry Tincknell, who was always very, very impressive in Formula 3 before he moved into sports car racing, and indeed GT. There's another Blancpain connection because he did drive a GT Nissan at Nürburgring at the end of the 2014 season. But the celebrations on the podium, they can't celebrate for too long because they've got to go and have a debrief with the engineers. They've got another race this afternoon. But for now, Lance Stroll it is who can take all the plaudits for yet another victory in the FIA Formula 3 European Championship. And you have to say it is looking very good indeed for him as far as the title race is concerned, with only 3 more triple headers to come after this weekend. So the rookie podium will be next. And as the drivers take their trophies and make their way from the podium, and the rookies get themselves ready for their podium. There's Ben Barnicoat, who's been there once, but from the 3rd step overall, it'll be the top step this time for the winning rookie. So there is Ben Barnicoat, the winning rookie in round 19. And he makes his way up on to the top step of the podium as the victor. There is Harrison Newey, the 2nd rookie, his best overall finish as well, 6th overall, so double reasons for smiling, Harry Newey. And then the 3rd of them is David Beckman, who again, not only is a rookie, but he's not even done the whole season. So Beckman's results continue to impress here. And he will make his way now up onto the podium as well. The winning rookies then have the British national anthem, Ben Barnicoat, the man in charge here in round 19. So the podium for the winning rookie, Ben Barnicoat. We have, of course, race 2 of the weekend to come at 4:05 this afternoon. Join us for that if you can. For now, from a wet Spa from David Addison. Bye-bye.